Well, good morning, and welcome to Let's Play, where we play games in my Steam and GOG library. And for the last video of the October month, it took me a little while to decide what game to play, but I finally settled on a narrative, choose-your-own-adventure game called Omen Exitio, Plague. And it is a Lovecraftian style adventure game. According to the Steam page, you investigate a paranormal disease that threatens to eradicate humanity in this unsettling Lovecraftian adventure, inspired by the choose-your-own-adventure game books of the 80s and 90s. Your choices will determine the story, your character's destiny, and the future of humanity. Now, this game is usually $9.99 on Steam, but at the moment, it is on sale for $2, and that will be for the next 5 or 6 days. It ends November 1st. So let's see, is it worth picking up for $2? We are going to find out. And for the record, since I did grow up in the 70s and 80s, I read my fair share of choose-your-own-adventure books. In fact, I rather enjoyed the Dungeons & Dragons choose-your-own-adventure books. They were a lot of fun. Alright. The beginning of a journey. You are accompanied by the sounds of the rigging rustling in the wind and the swelling of the waves as you stroll along the ship's deck. Its rocking evokes a slight sense of nausea, the wood groaning faintly with your every step, as if something inside wanted to scream, but didn't quite have the energy. A journey. A long journey. Your ship is headed for Zanzibar. How long have you been at sea? You can't even remember. The days follow one another, never changing. It feels like living in an endless haze, dazed and captured by the outline of those unknown waters. But all in all, you don't mind the feeling. After all, you are here to forget. Your name is Jake Huntington. You are a doctor, a researcher, or at least you were proud to call yourself one before your entire world crumbled around you. You have always fought to save people's lives, but now you face a different battle where you have to kill. Such is the irony of fate. You enlisted in order to escape from yourself and, above all else, from the pain. You look out to sea, wondering whether this ship can carry you far enough. Reality seems suspended during sea travel. Time loses all meaning and extends infinitely, just like the blue expanse spread out before you. Day after day, you've been watching the horizon ahead bobbing up and down, when... Jake, remind me again while we're here. It feels like all this water has wiped my memory clean. The voice belongs to Ed O'Bannon, a blonde Irish boy. He can't be much older than 16, and just like every other evening, he's had a drop too much to drink. Yet he blames the long voids for his memory lapse. Shall we speak with him or ignore him? Let's speak with him. Oh, Bannon, I've no idea why they're sending us over to this forsaken island on the other side of the world. And let me tell you, I don't even care. All I know is that tomorrow we'll be there, at last. With these words, you leave Ed to his Irish drinking songs and head below deck. It's time to sleep. You're lying in your bunk, and just like every other night for the best part of a year, you're having a hard time falling asleep. You toss and turn in your sweat-soaked sheets until... Ryan. Jake, are you asleep? It's Ryan Vespucci, the man in the bunk next to yours. He is the assistant cook, hailing from Italy. Suddenly you remember that tomorrow it's your turn in the ship's mess. Listen, you speak with Ryan. What is it, Ryan? I left you a list of the provisions we need in the galley tomorrow. I want to talk to you about something else as well. I've been hearing rumors among the soldiers, but maybe we should discuss the matter tomorrow. Good night, Jake. The dorm is filled with heavy breathing and the loud snoring of your companions. Apparently everyone is sleeping soundly except for you. Turning over in your bed, you find the note Ryan left you under your pillow. You light the candle you keep near the bed and read the note. The candlelight flickers in the dark and the words come to life and dance before your eyes, while your pupils get used to the faint light of the wavering flame. Jake, you think you joined the army to atone for your sins, but you're mistaken. You're not headed for Zanzibar by chance. What you will see over there will change your perspective so much that you will turn your old profession once again. And during this journey, you will discover you have a friend. Well, it's not Ryan's list. You wonder whether it's just an odd prank by your fellow soldiers, but it seems too clever for them. While considering the several theories, you finally slip into slumber, gently rocked by the waves. It won't be long until the landing, but that doesn't mean you can escape kitchen duty. Ryan hands you a bag of potatoes to peel while he starts working on a bunch of carrots, slicing them with a skill and accuracy which is second to none. Better than anyone you've ever seen. How long have you been in the army, Ryan? Not a long time, really, but longer than you, I'd bet. Jake, you're right. Actually, this voyage is pretty much the entirety of my military career. Don't worry. Just stick with me and that Irish fool old Bannon, and you'll see it's not too bad. Shouts coming from the deck interrupt your chatting. Land ahoy! You hurry up and carry out your task before landing. Zanzibar port is a racket. Sailors yell in a wide variety of accents while goods are unloaded onto the docks, piling up in small mountains of crates. You are on the deck observing the slowly approaching shapes of Stone Town. Soon at last you will once again set foot on solid ground. You were granted some free time, so you treat yourself to a stroll around town. You are walking along the quay when a beggar approaches you. His rough hooded tunic covers his face. He reeks and walks with a limp, leaning heavily on a stick. Even though you don't understand what he's saying, you understand from his gesture that he's asking for charity. You give him alms. You hand out a coin to the beggar, and as he reaches out to grab it, you notice a tattoo on the inside of his wrist. You only get a glimpse of it, but it strikes you with its peculiarity. The simple shape reminds you of an eye. The beggar tries to get your attention and follows you. He grabs your shirt, forcing you to stop. He slips his hand into your pocket and then suddenly starts running. His apparent disability is gone and he's no longer limping. The beggar runs along the dock as nimbly as an acrobat. When two sailors carrying some bulky crates pop out in front of him, he vaults clear over them as easily as if he were stepping over them. The sailors stop to yell at him, dropping the crates and blocking your path. Clear the way. They both turn and start screaming bloody murder at you. You try to make them see reason, but they keep muttering as they pick up the crate and go about their business. When you finally manage to pass, the fake beggar has vanished. You check your pockets. The only thing missing is the strange message you found in place of Ryan's list. Why did that man steal it? He probably thought it was money. You are still confused about what just happened when Ryan approaches you on the dock. Ryan, Jake, the hell are you doing? Leave's over. We've been called to muster. You follow the half-Italian to the dock of your ship. The troop is examined and soon makes its way to headquarters. You march with the squadron you were assigned to, lost in your thoughts. You expected an entirely different welcome from Zanzibar. Continue. Chapter 2, with Sweat and Blood. Smith. "Wake up! Everyone on their feet, quick!" You open one eye, followed by the other. You feel the slow swaying of the sea and that peculiar smell of the ship, something like unwashed bodies and acrid salt which prickles your nostrils. But it is just for a moment, and within seconds you are on your feet. It is Smith, the captain of the troop, who is yelling at you in the early morning. O'Bannon groans. He is still not up, and luckily the captain is unaware of it. The cries of Captain Smith could sink a battleship on their own. Should we ignore O'Bannon or help him get on his feet? Let's help him. Come on, O'Bannon, stop dreaming about whiskey bottles and get a move on. I'm awake, I'm awake. Your Irish friend's whiny character reminds you of a child who doesn't want to go to school. And not even my mum was this annoying. O'Bannon mumbles some more incomprehensible words, and with considerable effort he gets to his feet, wobbling. It seems he is still drunk from last night. You'd better keep an eye on him to prevent him from getting a severe scolding and a flagrant punishment. You're outside waiting for the training to start. O'Bannon is next to you, still sleepy. After weeks of travel, Smith fears you have all gone soft. Looking at the men in your row, the doubt seems to be entirely valid. You can see the disorientation and lack of sleep on their faces. The air is filled with sand and your boots sink into the mud. The view is desolate except for some isolated shacks. Smith is explaining the details of this morning's training with a cracked, rasping voice. You're distracted by the view. The weariness from the journey makes his speech hard to follow, and you end up missing parts of it, but you're sure you're not the only one. No one can get used to this new situation due to the brevity of the captain's speech. You hesitate for a moment, but Smith breaks the silence with an unyielding command shouted aloud. Come on, move, ladies, until you are well awake. So we can. Okay. We can either lead, which gets us +1 to observation. Follow, save the energy, which gets us +1 to medicine. Stay next to O'Bannon and try to help him, which gets us +1 to speechcraft. Or outrun, which gets us +1 to fighting. Let's go with speechcraft. O'Bannon limps at the back of the group. Ed, you better pull yourself together quickly or we'll be in trouble. Don't worry, Jake. If I don't collapse gasping for breath, this race will get rid of the hangover. Once you arrive at the training ground, you must crawl through mud and overcome several grueling obstacles. Climbing walls, barbed wire, and thick tires. This time, no one waits for Smith to start barking orders, and you all dive onto the ground for the next exercise. You take a breather to see how O'Bannon is getting along. In his current condition, you're worried he will end up sinking into the mud and suffocate. Your concerns turn out to be well-founded. You see O'Bannon trying to slip out to catch his breath. Unfortunately, he ends up lying down with his face right in the muck in the middle of the training path. O'Bannon, keep doing that, I will put you in isolation. Good job, Vespucci. Huntington, you need to work harder. Smith surely isn't generous with his encouragement. You try to clean yourself up as fast as possible. Your clothes are wet and heavy, not exactly ideal for your next task. Climbing a palm tree as quickly as possible, picking a coconut, and climbing back down, preferably in one piece. So, can we, again, we have our choice. We can go for another speechcraft, or we could go for an observation, and I think we're going to go with the speechcraft again because, you know, we have tried to get O'Bannon this far. Let's get him a little further. Smith, I appreciate your comradeship, Huntington, but I want to see your coconut all the same. You nod, helping O'Bannon to sit on the ground, then carry out your task. You try not to show any annoyance or irritation towards Smith. You deliver the coconut and get back to your mate. It's time for the gun test. Smith examines you quickly with grave glances, while a soldier hands you a rifle. The task is simple. You need to hit the target. Alright, so, thoughtful. You shoot with your rifle, then encourage O'Bannon to do the same. Actually, this time we're going to go with disciplined, which is observation. Before taking position, you carefully check the rifle for irregularities. Excellent, Huntington. You must always check your rifle before shooting. A jammed weapon in battle could mean death or a blow-up in your face. Your shot hits very near the center of the target. Great shot, Huntington. After the shooting range, Smith takes you to a large, flat, dusty area. In front of you, there are a series of worn-out cannons. Smith wastes no time in pairing off the men to cooperate in both the maintenance and actual use of cannons. He probably wants to test your teamwork skills. You find yourself paired with O'Bannon, who joyfully comes to you, stumbling a bit. Okay. You observe how your comrades work. You want to improve your technique and have a better result. You carefully watch the other pairs busy with their cannons. O'Bannon is too preoccupied with his headache to help you much. You mimic two skilled soldiers and, all in all, you manage to shoot decently. Smith is not satisfied at all, and he sharply explains your next task. It's time to practice hand-to-hand combat. Naturally, you are paired with O'Bannon. You look at your partner, assessing his state. He's still a bit dazed, but at least he's standing and seems a little more aware. So you get set to carry out the task. So we have speechcraft, fighting, medicine, and agility. Let's go at cunning, so speechcraft. Do you think you can handle it, Jake? I don't want to hurt you too much. If you don't feel up to it, we can pretend to fight, and I can even lose. Pretend I could knock you out even if I were completely drunk and had one hand behind my back. You attack while O'Bannon goes on with his boasting. You hit him in multiple spots without giving him any time to react. Then you knock him down and quickly put an end to the fight. Smith stares at you for a couple seconds, then mumbles something, but he seems pleased. He orders you to get started on the next task. Once again, you are to practice hand-to-hand combat, but this time your opponent is Vespucci. You look at him, and he smiles. You both know he's stronger than you. You try to buy time in order to find a fault in his guard. You try to limit the damage, raising your hands to protect the most vulnerable body parts. You try to intercept Vespucci's blows, shielding yourself with your arms. You buy time. Ryan's attacks are vicious, but you doubt he can keep them up for long. Your patience rewards you when you notice your opponent starting to wheeze and gradually becoming inaccurate. You manage to exploit an opening in his guard and charge towards him, taking him to the ground. As your comrade brushes the dust off his trousers, you hold out your hand with a smile. Ryan smiles back, takes your hand as he gets up, congratulating you on the good fight. Smith continues relentlessly shouting orders. You pick up all the equipment, the backpack, and the training rifle. It seems that the captain wants you to be full of adrenaline for the combat simulation, so that you don't hold anything back. He forces you to run right through the jungle to reach your next destination. You glance at O'Bannon and notice his arms bleeding. Wait, Ed, what happened there? You point at the trace of blood on his hand. O'Bannon shrugs to minimize his injury, and you answer with a smirk, gesturing at him to come towards you. Come here, Ed. As slow as you are, you will be last anyway. O'Bannon mumbles and smirks, but he gives you his arm. You lift his sleeve and check the wound. It's not too bad, but it may get affected here in the dirt. You clean it up with your canteen water and wrap it with a handkerchief. When the training is over, you will take another look at it. You and O'Bannon are the last to reach Captain Smith's prearranged spot, both panting and red-faced. You are welcomed by a barrage of insults which Smith spits at you both with equal parts saliva and venom. The squadron moves on together, but without you, O'Bannon and Vespucci. You fell behind to deal with your friend's wounds, and the Italian wanted to assist you. He's always ready to help. Ed is immediately taken to headquarters in order for his wound to be sutured. You wonder whether you should follow him and perform the task yourself, or leave him to the hands of another doctor and go on with training. You follow O'Bannon to the shacks that the troops' headquarters are made of. You navigate the movements of the men who carried your friend, and you move closer to suture the wound. Now it's time for the last part of the training, teamwork. The troop stops near an abandoned fortress, and the two groups are ordered to get into formation. One will attack the walls. The other will handle all the artillery, either bombarding the weak walls of the fort or providing cover for the frontline soldiers. You handle the artillery. The orders are clear. You have to take the fort as quickly as possible while trying to limit the enemy's counterattack, and you must decide which strategy to use. Protect. These are intense moments, filled with shouts, blasts, and dust. The simulated battle seems quite real. The day is now coming to an end, and the mock attack on the fort has been carried out. The men are all exhausted, yourself included. I'm proud of you all. Today you made a real effort. Tomorrow we could even go on the attack, but for now it's time to rest and refresh ourselves. The day's light had almost disappeared below the horizon when your captain brings the soldiers back together. He has an important message for all the men. He has not yet started to talk. He is waiting for everyone to sit down, but you can feel some serious tension filling the air. The pro-British Sultan, Hamad bin Thiwani, ruler of Zanzibar, died on the day of your arrival on this island, and Khalid, an illegitimate ruler, has since taken his place. An ultimatum has been sent to Khalid requesting that he abdicate peacefully. That ultimatum will expire tomorrow morning. Okay, so before we continue, we do have a couple things we can look at. We have a map, which doesn't have much of anything on it currently, but that is Zanzibar. We have notes, which we have items, which we do not have any of. Characters, a diary, which only notes the mysterious tattoo. And of course, the characters that we've met. Strict but fair, Smith is an excellent captain. He has great strategic skills and knows very well the capabilities of all the men under his command, taking full advantage of their potential. Ryan Vespucci, assistant cook of Italian origin. He's your cabin mate. Available, funny, and with a great sense of duty. He's always ready to give you a hand. And Ed O'Bannon, an Irish lad just over 16 years old. Blonde hair, skinny, tends to become troublesome when he hits the bottle, which he loves to do, but is a trusted companion. And then we have yourself, Jake Huntington, date of birth 12 July 1867, place of birth London, nationality British, address 75 Globe Road, London. Current status is healthy. He's a male of almost 6 foot tall, weighs 181 pounds, light brown hair, brown eyes, and light skin tone. Profession, medical researcher. Marital status, widower. And I'm assuming this picture here must be of his dead wife. So currently we have 2 under observation, 1 under medicine, and 3 under speechcraft. So speechcraft allows you to persuade and intimidate those in front of you, obtaining information or manipulating their actions. Words at times are much more effective than any weapon. Agility, which we don't have yet. Agility helps you jump, run, and dodge enemy hits. It allows you to take advantage of speed in combat rather than force, but also to escape quickly if necessary. Medicine. Medicine is useful for treating your companions and yourself, but it can also be used offensively. If you know where to hit to do more harm, you do not need brute force. Observation. Observation allows you to notice details that are normally ignored by most people, and it can help you find useful clues. And fighting is obvious. Fighting helps you face your enemies. It includes unarmed combat and the ability to use firearms. So it also says that there's cost for each of these. Which, well, we'll find out about later. But let's go back to the story. I think we have time for one more chapter. Your squadron is lined up in the courtyard of the headquarters. It's 8 o'clock in the morning, but this time everyone is wide awake. You are ready to set off for the Sultan's palace. Looking around, you can see the anxiety in the faces of your fellow soldiers. The time given for the ultimatum is almost up. The British force is composed of various ships and around 1,000 men, but the Sultan's army should not be underestimated. Between his most loyal men and the soldiers subdued to his will, the prince has gathered a small army, certainly enough to propose a threat. Okay, that's what that is. You can go backwards. Oh, and now the character sheet is highlighted. And we have 12 points we could potentially spend. Let's put a point in agility since we don't have one there. Alright, back to the story. The reason for Smith's urgency in training the men with all those hours crawling in the mud and climbing palm trees is now clear. He was figuring out how prepared his soldiers were, rather than just training the new recruits. Khalid's granted time has almost run out, and the Rear Admiral Harry Lawson, who is on board the St. George, notifies the men to stand by for the attack. You don't know him well, but you have heard he is intolerant of anyone who fights under any banner but his. It's General Lloyd Matthews who begins the attack, ordering his men to open fire upon the prince's palace. Well known for his extraordinary willpower and determination, Matthews has just one goal in this fight: unseat the usurper as quickly as possible. Even Smith seems intimidated by the figure of Zanzibar's Prime Minister, General Matthews, and nervously commands his troops to move forward to the palace. He wants a reconnaissance group to avoid ambushes and to look for the best point to strike. Should we go on reconnaissance? Sir, I'd like to volunteer to go on a recon mission to the dock. Smith appreciates your initiative. After looking you straight in the eye for a few moments, he decides to put you in command of the operation and chooses a group of men who are going to follow you and take your orders. You lead your group, running close to the palace walls and sliding along like thin shadows in the daylight. You place yourself near the shore, hiding behind the dunes where your back barely sinks into the sand and your watchful eyes can have a view of the entire dock. All around you, the sound of the cannons echoes from the Allied ship, which are wiping out the opponents. So, observation or speechcraft. You lean out the sandy mound, checking the situation around you. With a rapid glance, you realize most of the Sultan's artillery has been neutralized, and the English ships have bombarded the shores, annihilating any resistance. Many locals are dead, and you watch as the injured are being carried away. In the distance, not far from the dock, you see the only enemy ship sinking, mirroring the situation on the land. The whole situation seems to favor the British Army, so you decide to retreat to the palace gardens. This way you can support your allies in the battle, which is almost at its climax. While you move forward, you meet your allies on their way back. They are euphoric, and when they see you, they flail their arms around with joy. The war for the Sultan's palace has turned out to be a surprisingly short-lived affair. After only 45 minutes of steady cannon fire, the British Army has forced the Sultan and his men to surrender. Despite the brevity of the battle, you are happy with yourself and how you managed to contribute to the victory. At the end of the fight, while he addresses the troops, Smith unexpectedly addresses you in front of the other men. Huntington, you did well in battle. I didn't know you were a leader. I didn't either. Thank you, sir. So we have done well so far, apparently. But so this is the game Omen Exitio Plague. And I think we are just getting started in the story. Now, there were some mixed reviews, although for the most part, the reviews on this game are very positive. Not bad, considering it came out 4 years ago. A very short positive review here. Pretty neat Lovecraft game. Don't expect anything over the top, though. Out of all the Lovecraftian mythos-inspired games I've played, this one hits the spot. No fancy graphics or flashy tricks to scare you. Just a simple interactive novel with some basic sketches, ambient audio / background music, and basic skills development through XP distribution. Imagination is the key word here, and the collaboration of all these elements makes it running wild. So, yeah, there's quite a number of fairly positive reviews. Occasional negative review. Here's one. It says, I really wanted to like this game. I did like this game for the first half of it, but somewhere past the slightly more than halfway mark, it felt like the game and the developers just ran out of steam. The pros, absolutely everything in the game like this, went from well-crafted and a pleasure to hurried, shallow, and riddled with typos. I had been very immersed in the story in the beginning and was looking forward to playing again and answering some questions it brought up. What happens if you do this instead? What happens if you ignore this thing? But by the time I got one of the endings, I knew I wasn't going to touch it again for quite a while. All my enthusiasm slowly waned away in the last third of the game, and I actually found myself clicking through some of the pages without reading towards the very end. I'm not sure what happened to Omen Exitio, but I wish it hadn't. This game could have been a real star if the quality had remained throughout the entire story, and honestly, I would have far preferred it cook for a bit longer and come out polished from start to finish. There's real potential here that crashed and burned at the 11th hour. Unless, or until there's a quality fix, I would pass. The real tragedy is in the production of this game, not the storyline itself. So, obviously there are a little bit of negatives. Here's another overall positive. Overall, I think Omen Exitio is an excellent Lovecraftian choose-your-own-adventure. The writing is outstandingly good and richly describes the world. I will agree with another reviewer, however, that towards the end your agency is increasingly violated and it feels like we can't make meaningful choices. Additionally, I dislike that there is no way to reload partway through the game. It would be nice to rewind, at least once we finished our original playthrough, and be able to experiment with different choices or strategies. Unless you want to spend 6 hours per experiment, that is not possible. Overall, you should play, but I might polish the game in 1 or 2 areas. Okay, so it seems that a full gameplay of this would take about 6 hours. If you would be interested in having me make a short series of this and finish playing through the whole thing, let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, well, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't, give me a thumbs down. Either way, leave a comment. And if you want to see more videos, well, all I ask is you consider subscribing, and don't forget to hit the bell for notifications. And thank you. And until next week, bye for now.